Welcome back, everybody. In today's video, we are breaking down TreVeyon Henderson. He's quickly rising up in ADP in your redraft leagues and probably dynasty, both startups and rookie drafts, and deservedly so. He was my RB2 coming out of the draft in terms of the grade. He graded out just under Ashton Genty. Now, keep in mind, this was a fantasy football-centric grading model that I've created and is obviously a constant work in progress. But I really liked TreVeyon Henderson coming out. And despite the fact that, yeah, there are theoretically better, landing spots for, offensive production in the sense of probably points per game as an offense, I really do think that the landing spot is a good one. So in today's video, we're going to delve through his profile, some advanced stats, break down what we've seen from him in some videos so far from preseason weeks 1 and 2, and then a little bit from camp. Talk about the depth chart and the Patriots, kind of what they have going on and what we might be able to expect. And then finally, take a look at where he's going in both total ADP, kind of the mixed bag of other positions and specific players going around him at this current moment in time. And then also where he's going in terms of in running back ranking specifically in redraft leagues. So without further ado, let's get into it. So taking a look at TreVeyon Henderson here on Player Profiler, he's 5'10", 202 pounds. Now, this is a 29.0 BMI. That's under the 30.0 threshold that we typically want from our running backs to be bell cow backs. And that's 28th percentile in terms of BMI. Now, he just is not this domineering Derrick Henry type of running back. He's not tiny, and he does not play tiny in any way, shape, or form, as you'll see later on in some of these videos. But he's just not the biggest guy. He has had some injury history, and you kind of just don't want him to get a ridiculous workload, most likely, if you want him to stay healthy. Now, the good news is he's kind of like you can use him in a Kamara or Gibbs-like way. They're not one-for-one comparisons as actual NFL players, but I really think that TreVeyon Henderson is going to gash people for huge gains and long touchdowns repeatedly. Now, he was selected 38th overall at the 206 in the real NFL draft. That is high-end second-round draft capital. For a running back, that is a significant team investment. Make no mistake, they have no intention of just leaving this guy on the sidelines or just, making him kind of a third down back. No, he is going to command touches because he is very good. Now, he's a little bit under 23 years old. We really don't care for running backs in terms of the age per se. We don't really expect much more than a couple years of production from most of these guys. There are exceptions. Taking a look at his athleticism on the right hand of your screen, he ran a 4.43 40-yard dash, which is 92nd percentile among running backs. But given his height and weight, that's adjusted in his speed score. That's a 104.9 score, which is 81st percentile. Obviously great. And then a 129.5 burst score, which is 91st percentile. So across the board here, this guy is a fantastic athlete, even by NFL standards. And there is a positive correlation between being an elite athlete and being a high-end running back for us in fantasy. There are exceptions such as Kyren Williams, Chase Brown, and the like, but they're often inflated by touchdown production such as from Kyren or just an insane amount of scammy PPR production such as Chase Brown. Your Bijan Robinsons, your Jahmyr Gibbs, they are superb athletes. Now, taking a look at his production, in 2021, in 13 games as a true freshman, he had 184 attempts, 1,255 rushing yards on 6.8 yards per carry, 19 total touchdowns, 27 receptions, 312 yards on a 5.9% target share. Across the board, an absolutely dominant true freshman season at The Ohio State University. Now, in 2022, dealt with some injuries, same in 2023. And so the production was down, especially in his true sophomore season. Essentially did nothing through the air, which was interesting. But then came back pretty strong considering he only played 10 games, 926 and 11 for the total touchdowns, 19 receptions, 229 yards on a 6.8% target share, which at that point was a career high for him in college. He decided to stay, and I think it definitely helped him out. Although it was a relatively weak running back class back in 2024, so I do think he still had a pretty good shot at being the first running back drafted that year. But nonetheless, still picked 38th overall. And so this past season in 16 games, he had 144 attempts, 1,013 yards, 11 total touchdowns, 27 receptions, and 284 receiving yards. And so you can see in 3 out of 4 years, and this year was really marred by injury, he was just an all across the board efficient back, but more importantly, useful in both the run game and the passing game. Now, taking a look at PFF here, if you look at the bottom of your screen, when we take a look at his PFF grades, you'll notice that as a true freshman, he had an 83.6 run score that went down to a 78.7 as a sophomore, but then rose dramatically to an 89.9 before finally being a 91.8 this past season. You can see that his yards per attempt went from 6.8 down to 5.4 up to 5.9 before settling at a career high 7 this past season. He had double-digit touchdowns on the ground in 3 of 4 collegiate seasons. More importantly, only 1 total fumble. Look at that. Now, his yards after contact per attempt this past season was actually pretty crazy because, this is one of the things, like I was saying, he's only 5'10", 202 pounds. That's a 29 BMI, but that 4.43 yards after contact per attempt is a ludicrous number. And you'll see when we take a look at some of the video that it's just crazy how powerful this guy is. 37 missed tackles forced, which was fewer than his 50. His true freshman season was ludicrous. Still very good, though. Then you'll see they used him on more of the gap runs this season than the zone runs. I like the gap because it's a predetermined read for him in terms of the hole versus zone having to use his vision. He's more of a hit the hole very hard, which is going to create some of these big plays, but does at times kind of hurt his efficiency when he's asked to be on the zone runs, and he can't just necessarily hit a predetermined hole. He has to kind of be patient. That he could definitely develop that, and I think he'll probably get better, but I definitely think he's a better gap runner than zone runner, so I like the usage this past season, and I do think that they intend in New England to utilize him more so on gap than zone runs, but I could be mistaken. But one other really cool thing is look at his breakaway percentage. That's runs of 15 or more yards that were designed runs. And so that's over 50% of his rushes were for 15 plus yards. That's how explosive this guy is on the ground. And we've seen it repeatedly throughout camp and the preseason already. That absolutely translated. Looking at his receiving profile on PFF. So, like I said, 312 and 4 as a true freshman, that kind of dwindled down in his injury-marred sophomore season, but then he had 229 through the air and 281 and 1 this past season. You can see that his receiving grade, besides this really poor kind of outlier sophomore season, was tremendous for a running back. And I want to say the yak per reception being over 10 yards per reception for every single collegiate season is an absolutely crazy number. And then I also want to point out that you see some slot percentage usage here, as well as out wide percentage. He can absolutely be deployed in the slot, out wide, work vertically down the field. He is extremely dangerous. And I want to give a special shout out to my Patreon members. Thank you to Big Hunt, SP, Mage Jack, Infamy MTG, and AYAYOB. Thank you for your support, guys. As you know, I'm unable to collect any revenue because I like to do film breakdowns. The NFL and YouTube aren't the highest on that, so they get copyrighted a lot. And yeah, without you guys, this channel would not be running right now. So thank you for real for your support. If you would like to become a member, you could become part of the All-Star tier for $8 a month on my Patreon. You'll have access to private Discord channel where we have both real life and fantasy football talks. I'll give you a detailed roster review based on your specific league settings and starting lineup requirements, as well as detailed trade advice and different strategies you can employ in order to make super teams for you guys. You'll also have private access to live streams that are going to be unlisted on YouTube, so nobody else that is not a member can join. And finally, you'll have the ability to see videos at least one day early and have the ability to suggest videos that you would like me to create for you. So once again, thank you guys for your support. And if you would like to become a member, the link is going to be in the comment section. Thanks. Now, taking a look at our first clip here, we're going to take a look at the run for a touchdown this past preseason week. So you'll see he hits the hole. He's very patient, actually, which is very impressive in my opinion. Like I said, during his collegiate days, he was very aggressive in hitting the hole and not very patient. So I do like to see that here, going behind Will Campbell, who, if you take a look here, let me find Will Campbell. Take a look at the left tackle here. Right here. He is going to manhandle his blocker, or his block. He is going to manhandle that guy with one hand. That's just crazy. And so I'm going to show you another angle from the back here. So you see they put 81 in motion. They go behind. Take a look at this. manhandling this guy with one arm. And then TreVeyon Henderson hits the hole, and it's an absolute touchdown, which we see for a second consecutive preseason week with him scoring a touchdown. Now, one other thing is, like we are well aware after his return touchdown on his first touch this past preseason week, he is useful in the return game. I'm going to show you some pass protection reps here as well. So first, they're going to have a kickoff return. Unfortunately, this one is not returned for a touchdown, which is fine. You can't do that every time, but still out over the 25-yard line, which we like to see. And so here we're going to get a rep where he isn't able to, per se, square up and really get his hands on him, but he's able to divert his path away and make it inconvenient to where he has to extend in order to get to Drake May. And so Drake May has time to get the ball out. Unfortunately, he's a little bit high and it's almost intercepted. Now here, he's going to go out on a wheel. Now what he's going to do is he's going to, well before the ball's there, turn around and look, which first of all does obviously help him track the ball, but then also kind of helps make the defender think that the ball is coming right then, which could lead to him trying to reach for it too early and then allowing the pass to be completed. So I really like what I see from him. Let me go to that. And so, yeah, like I said, in this pass pro rep, makes it inconvenient. Now here he's going on a wheel out of the backfield. He looks around to track the ball, kind of lead the defender. Now he's unable to corral the ball here. It was a good play by the over-the-top defender, but otherwise good ball placement. He probably should have come down with that if I'm being honest, but you know, you're not going to be 100% successful in everything you do. Now here he hits the hole hard, not too much for him to do there. I do think he read the hole correctly. Now here he chips the edge defender before heading out to the flat. Unfortunately, Drake May is not going to hit him there. Here he hits the hole hard again. Unfortunately, the inside defender kind of collapsed there, so not much for him to do. Now here he has the option to run out for a route, but he's going to stay in and protect Drake May. And he does a very good job of stonewalling that defender. That defender, it took him probably 2 seconds, 3 seconds, maybe even 4 to get off of that block. TreVeyon Henderson is such a good pass blocking back, man. It's crazy. Take a look at this. Look at the anchor. Stonewalls him. Nope. And here we have a draw up the middle, which was on a 3rd and 10, mind you. It took him about 1 second to go 10 full yards on that draw play. And he did convert the first down. Very impressive. Obviously a good play call from time to time because defenses aren't going to expect the draw. Generally makes no sense. Now here we have another replay of that touchdown where he pressed the hole hard and fought through contact to score a touchdown. Now taking a look at week 1, this was a toss play to TreVeyon Henderson on the left. Let me turn down the sound. And yeah, 18 yards. He had 3 receptions for 12 yards in this game as well. Broke multiple tackles on one of his receptions and 1 tackle, or at least finished off the defender pretty well on another one of his receptions. And obviously had that 100-yard kickoff return touchdown, which was thoroughly impressive. Essentially, everything we've seen from this guy so far is that he's just absolutely explosive. We see him on the kick return touchdown here. Just absolutely dynamic vision, so fast. The build-up speed, you can just see it. It shatters angles, and we've seen it time and time again since its collegiate days. He is just absolutely dynamic. I think they're going to get the ball to him. I don't think he plays too much on special teams, if I'm being honest. I think they're going to value him too much, but I do think he sees returns from time to time. But I really think he's going to be involved on basically every 3rd down. And see the majority, or see a good portion of the running back carries as well. And I do think he's going to see goal line work, especially on 3rd down near the goal line. So I do think he has a ton of upside. And so now we're going to have him here. He was on a wheel against the Vikings in practice. He was uncovered, and yeah, walk-in touchdown. We've seen him cooking in camp left and right. This guy's just going to be so dynamic on a per-touch basis. I think it's going to be quite similar to what we've seen at times from Devon Achane, Jahmyr Gibbs, Alvin Kamara back in the day. I mean, and once again, when you take a look at the depth chart here, we have Drake May, young, promising quarterback who played very well when you consider how terrible the line was, how terrible the coaching was, the lack of offensive line, the lack of weapons in the passing game. I have all kinds of hope for Drake May. Ramondre Stevenson is basically the perfect back, in my opinion, for somebody like TreVeyon Henderson for competition. Somebody that is good enough to kind of get those plotter carries inside the 20s, really just the low value touches, allowing TreVeyon Henderson to come onto the field in the third downs, basically all of them, as well as be used, near the goal line as well, and sprinkled in, obviously, kind of like I do envision him to be used kind of like a Jahmyr Gibbs, and I think that's going to be extremely effective. But, when you take a look at the other weapons in the passing game, you have, Stephon Diggs. Depends. We'll see what he looks like. I've seen some decent looking clips from camp, but I mean, it's hard to trust that per se. We'll see what he looks like, but he's 31, so he's on the older side. Douglas is a fine slot guy. Kyle Williams, I do like a lot. I think he's quite talented, but still pretty unproven, third round pick. Hunter Henry's, a fine tight end. I don't think he's anything special. Boute's shown some flashes, but nothing crazy. Chisholm has looked very good. We'll see if he is in the rotation. I'm sure he makes the team. But they've definitely done some upgrading on the offensive line, especially with Will Campbell at left tackle. He looks really good. But essentially, I just like this because he's not going to get that ridiculous workload where he's going to be more prone to injuries, at least in my opinion. And I do think that while that's also true, he's at the same time going to get the high value touches, which is what we care about for fantasy. Now, taking a look at where he's going in drafts, as you can see right now with this recent surge, he is going off the board as the 51st overall pick, as the RB20 on average. Now, this is, with CBS and Sleeper in standard scoring. I'm going to go through a couple scoring settings here. But, Rashee Rice before him, that suspension, I think he's going to be going ahead of Rashee Rice. Cortland Sutton, I think, is a fine value where he's at. Metcalf, I'm not the highest on Metcalf this year, if I'm being honest. James Conner, I think that he's going to see some of his work go away. Chuba Hubbard, I think the passing game work that he did see this past season is going to go away. DJ Moore, if this past week is anything of note, DJ Moore only played, I believe it was 1 snap in the slot and 6 out wide versus Rome with 4 out wide and 3 in the slot. I think that there's a very good chance that Rome Odunze is that power slot. So I do think that DJ Moore could potentially not be quite as good as where he's being drafted as the wide receiver 20. Although I do like him more in a standard setting. I do think that he could move up a couple spots in terms of paying off his ADP. But taking a look specifically with running backs, and this is once again standard scoring, so CBS Sleeper and RDR Sports. So taking a look at TreVeyon Henderson, he's going off the board once again as a 20. Players like James Conner going ahead of him, I do think that Conner sees once again a reduction in his workload. With Chuba, I think that happens through the air. Kenneth Walker, he's being drafted as the RB17. He hasn't yet finished, I don't believe, as the RB17 yet. So I just think that, if he stays healthy a full season, then awesome. I think he's going to be explosive, but he has not shown that ability. Alvin Kamara, another year older, there's definitely a ton of risk with him. The offense just probably doesn't look very good overall. I really do think that he could be in that, 12 to 15, 16 range in terms of end of season finish, and he's being taken as a 20, even in a standard, because I think he's going to score plenty of touchdowns. Now, where it gets interesting is in a full PPR, right? So in a full PPR setting, he's being taken off the board still as the RB20. I think he's going to get a ton of work in the receiving game. In a full PPR setting, I think he could very well finish in that 10 to 12 range. I think that all it would take, obviously, is an injury to one of these guys for somebody else to move up in the slots. But taking a look, once again, who's going ahead of him, I think Connor sees a reduction in workload. Chuba, same thing. Kenneth Walker just can't stay healthy. Amari Hampton, I think, is a good bet to finish higher than where he's going. I think Kamara could definitely dip. I think Breece Hall could potentially dip if there's a decrease in touches enough to really affect his points per game. I think James Cook sees significant touchdown regression, so I think he sinks a little bit. I think Chase Brown's probably right about there, give or take. Kyron Williams, he's just been declining. I just don't really like him. I think he's probably going to be in that give or take range of, in the 10 to 14 range because of his touchdowns, but Just really nothing in the receiving game, which in a full PPR setting is going to hurt you. But, I just think that he's so talented, and that even with this surge, with him going as the RB20, even at full PPR or standard non-PPR setting, that he's going to exceed this ADP. He's going to be efficient. He's going to score plenty of touchdowns, and he is by far and away, in my opinion at least, the most talented playmaker on that offense. And I think he's going to be a repeated security blanket for Drake May. Remember, in preseason week 1, I believe he only played in 2 drives. And in 2 drives, he had 3 receptions, while once again rotating in and out with Ramondre Stevenson. So to answer the question, is he worth the hype? I absolutely think so. He was my pre and post draft RB2. I just think he's so explosive on a per touch basis, so good in pass protection, a great receiver out of the backfield, will gash you on the ground, that he's just the prototypical kind of speed, Jahmyr Gibbs, back in the day, Alvin Kamara type of usage back for an offense. And for fantasy, obviously we prefer those, Ashton Genty types that are just built to shoulder the entire workload, and, Derrick Henry. But there's definitely value in players like TreVeyon Henderson. I like him a lot more in a full PPR than his standard, but I still think he's going to score plenty of touchdowns and have enough big plays in terms of his total yardage to be able to still be a very good pick in a redraft or in a standard redraft league. But what do you guys think? Do you think I'm a little bit too high on Henderson, a little bit too low even, possibly? Let me know below in the comment section. Where have you gotten him? Do you have any shares in Dynasty leagues? Let me know below in the comment section. Once again, I am unable to collect any revenue through YouTube because I do film breakdowns. I show clips just like today. Usually I break them down, though, on NFL Pro. But if you would like to become a member of the Patreon and support me, I would really appreciate it. This channel would not run without you guys who do support me. Thank you very much. Otherwise, if you do not wish to or can't, if you could just give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends after you've done your drafts. I'm just playing. I would really appreciate it. So thanks and have a good day.